Welcome to another exciting episode of Carving the Divine TV. My name is Yujiro Seki. I'm a director, writer, and the producer of the documentary Carving the Divine. Carving the Divine is about the Buddhist sculptors of Japan, and I'm ready to present it for the first time in the world. But before I do so, I thought it would be a great idea to introduce the basic concept of Buddhism and the history of Buddhism, so that when you guys finally watch my documentary, you guys can watch it at the maximum value. Today, we're going to be talking about Buddhism and cooking. What does cooking have to do with Buddhism? Not so fast. You know, the fact is, we'll be eating for the rest of our lives. And no matter where you're from, what kind of religious affiliations we have, we'll be all eating. Even when we cannot eat through our mouth anymore, we'll be eating through intravenous. So this is very important issue. So that's why I invited somebody who can talk about the cooking. I would love to introduce to you Chef Eric Ripert. Welcome to our show.
Thank you very much. It's my great pleasure to be with you tonight. I mean, tonight for me and today for you.
Yes. I know you are super crazy famous. But just in case for the people who don't know anything about you, please introduce yourself.
Sure. I am Eric Ripert. I am the chef of a restaurant called Le Bernardin in New York City. And I am also the owner of the restaurant. So I live in America.
Wonderful. So can we know a little bit about your history, like your life a little bit?
Yes. I was born in France, in Antibes, which is the southeast of France, close to Italy. I grew up in a Christian family with a family that was very passionate about cooking and eating. My grandmothers and my aunts and my mother were very, very good cooks. And I grew up in that environment. I was a very bad student. So at 15 years old, I had to go to a special school to learn how to cook. Then I graduated. Finally, I was a good student and I graduated. And I applied after my graduation. I applied to the best restaurant in France. I worked in Paris, in famous La Tour d'Argent. In 1982, they were celebrating their 400-year anniversary. Then I worked with Joël Robuchon, who's very famous in Japan. Then Joël Robuchon sent me to America in 1989, and I worked at the Watergate Hotel, famous not only for the food, but also for the scandal with President Nixon at the time. Then in 1990, came to New York, and finally came to Le Bernardin in 1991. And I remain the chef of the restaurant. I am the owner of the restaurant. And it's a seafood. We are specialized in fish. So it's a seafood restaurant in the middle of Manhattan.
Wow. I love seafood, and we love seafood as a Japanese. Wonderful. Yes, we love to ask you, so why did you become a Buddhist?
So I became a Buddhist actually 31 years ago today.
Oh, today? Really?
I'm not joking. I mean, for you, it's actually the day after, but for me, we still the same day that His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, it's when he accepted the Peace Nobel Prize, and he made an amazing speech of acceptance. And I heard that monk on the stage in Sweden speaking about Tibet and about the struggle of Tibetan people, about the invasion and about the compassion that he had for the Chinese people that were invading his country and so on. And I was so touched that it was for me the beginning of having some interest about Buddhism, because I was raised Christian. It was not really a religion for me. it didn't really work for me for many reasons. And I was a bit confused in terms of spirituality and guidance. And when I heard His Holiness, suddenly I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Who is this monk? And from that day, I find a way to find the speech, and I read it again the day after. So today we're celebrating the 31st anniversary of His Holiness speech. And when I read it, I was reading again and again and again. And then I started to buy books. And for many, many years, I studied Buddhism through books. And then it was a progressive. And then finally, in the late 90s, I started to hear His Holiness teaching and have different teachers. And they were all Tibetan or Nepalese. And that was, for me, the transformation of from someone who was not happy with his own religion, finding something that I could relate to and a guidance that I liked.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then what does Buddhism mean to you?
Well, Buddhism means many things. So Buddha means enlightened, as we know. And when Siddhartha became Shakyamuni Buddha, he put the Dharma, the teaching, in three baskets. One religious, one is about the philosophy, and one is science. Today, as we know, quantum physics basically backs the theory of Buddhism. So science is really close to the theory of Buddhism, especially about the theory of emptiness. Philosophical is based on logic, and religious, it's a bit esoterical and it's about rituals and so on. So in my life, I follow Buddhism and I follow the religious aspect, the philosophical aspect, and to understand emptiness, I follow science. Now, Buddhism for me, it's my great privilege and my great luck to have a guidance in this lifetime. To follow the Dharma, I think it's pretty rare to have guides available to have people like me that are ignorant and try to bring them as close as they can to enlightenment. So that is what Buddhism is in my life.
So I assume
it's a lifestyle.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, what I'm saying is basically it's a lifestyle. For me, it's a guidance. And if I can make an analogy, it's basically the light at the end of the tunnel. It's a dark tunnel, right? And I see the light now, thanks to Buddhism.
Wonderful. Can you tell us some concrete examples of the benefit that you're having ever since you started practicing Buddhism?
Sure. I have a natural tendency to have a temper. So I have a natural tendency to be very quick to switch my mood, for instance, and potentially to develop anger toward situations and toward people when I'm struggling. Especially in a kitchen, every day it's a very difficult world in the kitchen, and every day for lunch and dinner we are under pressure. And when I was young, I used to scream at the cooks. I used to sometimes have tantrum and break plates on the floor and be very angry. Buddhism has changed me. Today, I'm not like that anymore. Today, I am approaching the challenges in my life with much more patience, much more compassion, and I'm suppressing anger, and it's disappearing. Not fast enough, but I'm pretty fast. And that is, I think, a concrete example of what Buddhism has done for me. Also to look at people with a different eye and develop compassion toward people. It's something that I didn't know how to do. As a young person, I was more self-centered, I will say, and less inclined to try to bring happiness to people and the source of happiness, try to remove pain from people and the roots of the pain. Today, thanks to Buddhism, I practice every day loving kindness and compassion and many other qualities. So that's, I think, is pretty concrete and is directly connected to the teaching of the Dharma.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now we would love to talk about the cooking. So what does cooking mean to you?
Cooking is a passion. Cooking is it's my life. Cooking means for me that I'm eating well too, because when I was a young kid, I was very spoiled, like I mentioned previously, by my family, and I was always in the kitchen eating extremely well. And my family, to make me happy as a gift, was always cooking things that I like. Then I grew up developing passion for eating, but then it became my job. I learned how to become a cook first and then a chef. And I love what I do. So cooking for me, it's my lifestyle. It's very rewarding because I have a team with me and we work together, and I can practice the Dharma while also I am cooking with them. The idea is to make happy clients, happy people during few hours while they're having an experience. So all of this, it's basically what makes me a happy cook, a happy chef. It's to be lucky to live my passion every day and to live from my passion as well.
So you mentioned it a little bit, but how does the world of Buddhism and the cooking come together?
Well, cooking doesn't have to be necessarily a spiritual experience. And it's a lot of very successful chefs who are doing very good food, who are not necessarily spiritual. However, I believe that cooking could be also an opportunity to practice and to develop your spirituality. I have been lucky to go to Japan and South Korea in temples and to be exposed a little bit to temple food. And I love the process and the philosophy that temple food develop in people. And temple food is about being connected to the planet, to the elements, to the animals that live around the plants, because temple food is vegan. It's an opportunity to meditate, to be in the present. It's a Zen experience. It's an opportunity also to practice and feed people, like I mentioned before, and put compassion and love into your food. So when I go to those temples and I take basically a retreat, for me it's very good because I'm being refreshed and I'm being reminded that cooking can be that rewarding. It's not just taking ingredients and cutting them and cooking them. It's a way to practice. It's a way to make the Dharma real, because the Dharma can be a theory, and you can be in a room and you can be even with your teacher and you can understand the Dharma, but then you have to practice in real time with real challenges. And it's what cooking is for me.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm glad that you mentioned a little bit about the veganism. So that's what I'm going to ask you the next. So we live in a world of contradiction, in my opinion. So, on one hand, we talk about the love and the compassion, and on the other hand, we kill animals to eat. So how can we cope with this contradiction? So I know it's a tough question, but I wanted to know your opinion.
It is definitely a contradiction. I'm very conflicted about that, I have to say. When when I started cooking as a young cook, I never thought about the life of the animals. I never thought about the suffering of the animals. It took me years to become sensitive about it. It took me years to be like, oh my God, we are killing sentient beings. They are like us. They don't want to suffer, uh, and we are killing them. And also, I am in a business of pleasure. I'm making people happy with food, but some animals have been sacrificed to create that experience. Is it worth it? This is my conflict.
Mm.
Now, I have to say that um, Buddha was not necessarily a vegan, neither a vegetarian. Buddha was eating whatever people were giving it to him. He was begging for food, and people were giving him whatever food they were giving, and Buddha was eating. Of course, he advocates for veganism and vegetarianism. It's a plus if you can, but first of all, there's a lot of cultures, including especially the cultures of people living in the Himalayas who don't have necessarily much vegetables in high altitude and have no choice than to eat meat. A lot of human beings cannot survive with a vegan diet or vegetarian diet, because we are by nature omnivores. So most of us need to have some protein coming from animals. And also, I would like to say, we live in an era in 2020 where the society is not vegan yet, is not vegetarian. It's starting to arrive in our society, and it's a slow process. And I think it's going to take time. But today, if I was, for instance, closing Le Bernardin tonight and saying tomorrow Le Bernardin is vegan, I think I could not survive financially with my restaurant. And I would have to close, and it will make zero difference in the life of New Yorkers. So we have to find a balance. We have to find that, and we have to try to be mindful about the life of the animals that are sacrificed for our pleasure or for our nourishment. And we have to have a very respectful approach about it. Try not to serve animals that are on the verge of disappearance. Try not to waste food, especially when, again, it's animals that have been killed, and we should not throw food away. And that's where I'm standing.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we always have to thank the animal. I do assume. Yes, yes. So is this the reason why that you're writing your new book? We're curious about your new book. It's called a Vegetable Simple Cookbook, right?
Yes, my new book is it's called Vegetable Simple, and it will come in April 2021.
Wow, wow. So can you tell a little bit about the book? So what the theory behind it, and what kind of things that we can learn from the book?
Sure. So Vegetable Simple means simple, and it's a compilation of recipes with a lot of different vegetables and fruits that are not necessarily difficult to find, neither necessarily expensive, which are combined with techniques and recipes that are fairly simple. So I believe that you can take some simple vegetables like potatoes, and with simple technique have something that is delicious, that makes you very happy, and that also is very nutritious at the same time. So in that book, I have about 120 recipes with, again, a large variety of vegetables and fruits that are cooked simple, and then to help the reader to inspire the reader to cook, we have some beautiful pictures that are included in the book. And I'm very happy to have done this book, because I have done in the past 5 other books about seafood mostly, but also meat and vegetables. But this one is inspired by Mathieu Ricard, who's a monk. He's a French monk that lives in Nepal. He's in charge of a temple called Karuna Chechen. He's also the translator of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama in French. He speaks fluently in English as well. Mathieu Ricard is very famous in the Western world because he was a very famous scientist. His father was a philosopher. And one day he just decided to become a monk. And Mathieu Ricard wrote a book a few years ago called A Plea for Animals. And when you read that book, you are very moved. And I was very touched, very affected by his book. I met with him when he was in New York. We had a lot of discussions. I talked to him about my conflict, about killing animals, like we just talked about 2 minutes ago. And he inspired me to do this book. And I hope it will be a success, because it will help a lot of people to have great meals, but at the same time, paying homage to the vegetables and not hurting animals.
Wonderful. What a beautiful concept behind.
Thank you.
Yes, I know that the book is not out yet, but I was wondering if you could show us a recipe from a book so that we can learn something today.
Sure. For instance, I took the concept of spaghetti bolognese or pasta bolognese, which is a pretty typical Italian recipe that everybody ate at least once in his life, at least in the Western world, and that people love. And I thought, pasta bolognese, we can make a pasta bolognese without meat. We just replace the meat with mushroom. So what I do is I take garlic and onion that we chop, and then we cook it in olive oil slowly. Then we chop mushroom, different mushroom. And then when the chop in very small dices, like grind meat, we put it with the garlic and the onion and the olive oil, and we cook it slowly. Then we add chopped tomatoes, and we let it cook for maybe 10, 15 minutes. Then you have a sauce that looks like a bolognese. Again, the idea is not to copy I'm not trying to make a fake meat sauce. It's an homage to the mushroom, but it's inspired by the meat bolognese. So then I cook pasta in salted water. We plate the pasta, we mix it with a bit of olive oil. Then we top it with the sauce. And then if you're vegan, it's over. You can eat it like that. But if you are vegetarian and you like cheese, you can always grate Parmesan cheese on top. And you have a delicious pasta that is very flavorful.
Wonderful, wonderful. So yeah, I'm Japanese and I'm not so familiar with this food, but by looking at the picture, I can't wait to try it out. Wonderful.
Thank you very much. I hope you will enjoy.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I just want to ask you a personal question. My film is my documentary. It's about the Buddhist sculptors of Japan, and we talk about a lot of Buddhist statues. So what's your opinion or experience on Buddhist statues?
Buddhist statues are interesting because I think they are not only decorative, they have a lot of meanings. Like, for instance, what we call the mudra, which is the movement of the hands, are delivering messages. The statues have a lot of hidden messages in them. They are, therefore, I think, having an impact on us. At the same time, a lot of people feel good around Buddha. They're not even Buddhist necessarily, but they have this kind of a sensation of peace. They are relaxing. I find the sculptures and the statues very harmonious, and they create good energy. And I find them beautiful as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Wow, we had a really great time today. We would love to know what's going on in your world right now, and if you have a social media information website so that we can get to know more about you. Please tell us.
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at Eric Ripert. You can follow me on Twitter at Eric Ripert as well. It's very easy. You can also go to Google and find my name, and you will have a lot of information that are not necessarily on Instagram and on Twitter. And I think with all of that, you will know a bit more who I am and what I do in New York City. I'm not only a chef, I am also very involved with the community, and I'm trying to help people who are in need in New York, hungry people. I am doing a lot of other things that are not necessarily connected to my professional life.
Wonderful. Thank you very much today. So guys, if you think this information is useful, make sure to subscribe my YouTube channel, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and like me on my Facebook, because that's how we do it in the 21st century. So thank you very much for coming here, Chef Eric Ripert. So thank you so much for your precious time.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure. As you can see, I am ready to go back to the kitchen.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much.